The strongest people are not the loudest. They are the most grounded. They don't beg for validation. They radiate certainty. When you protect your peace, your standards rise, your boundaries become clear. Your focus sharpens. You stop chasing people and start attracting the right energy. Your nervous system relaxes, your mind clears, and suddenly you see opportunities where there was once only stress. That's not luck. That's alignment. That's what happens when your inner world stops fighting itself. Remember, this peace is not the absence of pressure. It's the presence of purpose. It's knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will no longer tolerate. Decide today that your peace is non-negotiable. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. When you protect your peace at all costs, you don't just survive life, you lead it. Your peace is your power source. And most people don't realize how much of their life leaks away because they treat it like something optional instead of essential. Every decision you make, every word you speak, every action you take is filtered through your emotional state. When your inner world is chaotic, your choices are weak, rushed, and reactive. But when your mind is calm and centered, you operate from strength. You see clearly. You move deliberately. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter and start investing it where it creates real results. Look at your life honestly. Think about the moments when you made your worst decisions. You weren't peaceful. You were angry, desperate, fearful, or overwhelmed. In those moments, you handed control to emotion instead of intention. Peace doesn't make you passive. It makes you precise. It sharpens your instincts. It gives you the ability to pause, assess, and choose the response that serves your future instead of satisfying your ego in the moment. Most people are addicted to emotional noise. They wake up and immediately consume chaos, news, opinions, social media, complaints. Then they wonder why they feel drained before the day even begins. Your nervous system was not designed to handle constant stimulation and conflict. When you allow that noise to dominate your mind, you burn through your mental energy before you ever touch your goals. Peace is not found by running away from responsibility. It's created by eliminating unnecessary friction in your inner world. When you protect your peace, your confidence changes. You stop second-guessing yourself because you're no longer emotionally hijacked by every external reaction. You don't need to prove yourself, defend yourself, or explain yourself. Calm people don't chase validation because they're anchored in certainty. That certainty becomes magnetic. Others feel it. Opportunities respond to it. Life begins to cooperate with you because you're no longer fighting yourself. Peace also builds resilience. When challenges come, and they will, you don't crumble, you don't panic, you don't fall into victimhood. You respond, you adapt, you lead yourself through pressure instead of being crushed by it. The calmest person in the room is usually the one with the most control, not because they dominate others, but because they dominate their own mind. This is why protecting your peace is not selfish, it's strategic. It allows you to show up fully for your work, your family, and your purpose. When your energy is stable, you become reliable. When your emotions are regulated, your vision expands. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. Peace becomes the foundation upon which discipline, focus, and consistency are built. If you want to increase your power, don't chase intensity, cultivate calm. Train yourself to pause before you react. Choose clarity over chaos. Guard your inner state with the same seriousness you guard your finances or your reputation. Because once your peace becomes non-negotiable, your life begins to move with a force that doesn't need noise to be felt. Not everything deserves your reaction, and the moment you truly understand this, your life changes at a fundamental level. Most people are trapped in a constant cycle of stimulus and response. Something happens, someone speaks, an opinion is thrown at them, and instantly they react. That reaction may feel justified, even necessary, but in reality it often costs far more than it gives. Every emotional outburst, every defensive reply, every impulsive response drains your energy and hands control of your inner state to someone or something outside you. Your reactions reveal who's in charge. When you react automatically, you are being led. When you pause and choose, you are leading. Power is not found in how loudly you respond or how quickly you defend yourself. Power is found in your ability to remain centered when others are trying to pull you off balance. Emotional discipline is one of the highest forms of strength, yet it's one of the rarest because it requires awareness, patience, and courage. Understand this clearly. Most provocations are tests. Tests of your self-control, your maturity, and your sense of identity. People will say things to trigger you, situations will arise to challenge you, and life will apply pressure to see whether you operate from intention or impulse. When you react instantly, you fail the test. When you observe, breathe, and respond intentionally, or choose not to respond at all, you pass it. Silence, when chosen consciously, is not weakness. It's restraint backed by confidence. Many people believe they must respond to be respected. The truth is the opposite. The more reactive you are, the more predictable you become. Predictability is weakness. When others know exactly how to provoke you, they control you. But when you stop giving automatic reactions, you become unreadable. You shift the dynamic. Suddenly, you're the one with leverage, not because you're manipulating, but because you're grounded. Choosing not to react doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel. It means you feel fully without letting those feelings dictate your behavior. It means you acknowledge anger without acting in anger, recognize disappointment without collapsing into it, and experience frustration without letting it define your actions. This ability separates leaders from followers, masters from victims. When you stop reacting, your clarity increases. You begin to see situations for what they truly are, not for how they make you feel in the moment. You make better decisions, speak with more impact, and move with precision. Your energy is conserved instead of scattered. That conserved energy compounds over time, turning into focus, confidence, and momentum. Life will always provide triggers. That will never stop. But your suffering decreases the moment you realize that you don't owe every situation a response. You owe yourself peace. You owe your future restraint. When you master your reactions, you master your direction, and from that place, you become unstoppable. Boundaries are not walls. They are self-respect in action, and without them, even the strongest people slowly lose themselves. Many individuals confuse boundaries with rejection or fear that setting limits will make them appear cold, selfish, or unkind. In reality, the absence of boundaries is what creates resentment, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. When you don't decide where you end and others begin, you live at the mercy of other people's needs, moods, and expectations. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you betray yourself a little. That betrayal compounds. Over time, it drains your confidence and blurs your identity. You begin to feel overwhelmed, unappreciated, and frustrated, not because people are taking too much, because you never made it clear what you were willing to give. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling your participation. They are the standards you set for how you will be treated and how you will engage with the world. Strong boundaries create clarity. They tell people how to interact with you without conflict or confusion. When your limits are clear, relationships improve because expectations are defined. The people who respect you will adjust. The people who resist your boundaries reveal something important about their intentions. Resistance is information. It shows you who benefited from your lack of limits and who genuinely values your well-being. Many people fear that setting boundaries will push others away. What actually happens is that boundaries push away chaos and invite respect. When you honor your time, your energy, and your emotional health, you send a powerful message you value yourself. That message doesn't need to be aggressive or loud. Calm consistency is enough. Boundaries don't require explanations, apologies, or justifications. A clear decision, repeated with certainty, is stronger than 1,000 emotional arguments. Protecting your peace means recognizing that access to you is a privilege, not a right. Not everyone deserves full entry into your inner world. Some people can have your time, but not your trust. Others can have your presence, but not your emotional investment. Discernment is not judgment, it's wisdom. You can be compassionate without being available to everyone's chaos. When you establish boundaries, your energy stabilizes. You stop feeling pulled in 100 directions. Your focus sharpens, your patience grows, and your emotional state becomes more consistent. This stability allows you to show up as your best self, not just for others, but for your goals and your purpose. You become less reactive and more intentional because you're no longer operating from depletion. Boundaries are acts of leadership, first with yourself and then with others. They teach people how to treat you, and more importantly, they teach you how to honor your own needs without guilt. The moment you stop overgiving and start self-respecting, your peace stops being fragile and starts becoming unshakable. You don't need approval to be aligned, yet so many people sacrifice their peace chasing validation from the outside world. From an early age, most of us are conditioned to seek acceptance, praise, and permission before we trust our own voice. We learn to measure our worth by reactions, likes, applause, and approval, and slowly we disconnect from ourselves. Alignment begins the moment you stop asking, do they approve of me? And start asking, am I being true to who I am? The need for approval is subtle but powerful. It shapes decisions, softens boundaries, and silences intuition. You say what's safe instead of what's honest. You choose what's popular instead of what's right for you. Over time, this creates inner conflict because your actions no longer match your values. That conflict drains energy and steals peace. You can't be calm when you're constantly performing for an audience that may never be satisfied. When you live aligned, you move from inner authority rather than external permission. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need universal agreement. You understand that clarity is personal, not collective. The most fulfilled people are not the most approved. They are the most authentic. They trust themselves enough to stand alone when necessary, knowing that temporary discomfort is better than long-term self-betrayal. Seeking approval makes you dependent. Alignment makes you free. The moment your sense of worth depends on others, you hand them control over your emotions. Praise lifts you too high, criticism drops you too low, and your inner state becomes unstable. But when your worth is self-referenced, feedback becomes information instead of identity. You can listen without collapsing and adjust without losing yourself. Letting go of approval doesn't make you arrogant or disconnected. It makes you grounded. You become more compassionate because you're no longer defending a fragile ego. You don't need to convince, argue, or impress. You simply live your truth. That authenticity creates a different kind of respect. The kind that doesn't need to be demanded. People feel your certainty even if they don't agree with your choices. Alignment also brings clarity in action. Decisions become simpler because they're filtered through your values, not through fear of rejection. You stop overthinking and start trusting. This trust reduces anxiety and creates momentum. When your actions align with your beliefs, your mind stops fighting itself. That inner coherence is peace. Not everyone will support your alignment, and that's part of the process. Growth requires separation from old expectations and outdated roles. Some people will be uncomfortable with the version of you that no longer seeks permission. Let them be uncomfortable. Your responsibility is not to manage others' reactions, but to live in integrity with yourself. When approval loses its grip on you, peace takes its place. You move with quiet confidence, rooted in self-respect and guided by purpose. Alignment becomes your compass, and no external opinion can pull you off course. Letting go of control is one of the hardest yet most liberating decisions you will ever make. Most people believe control equals safety, that if they can manage every detail, predict every outcome, and influence every person, they'll finally feel secure. But control doesn't create peace, it creates tension. It keeps your mind in a constant state of vigilance, bracing for what might go wrong instead of fully engaging with what is happening now. The truth is, control is an illusion. No matter how carefully you plan, life will always introduce variables you didn't account for. People will act unpredictably. Circumstances will shift without warning. When your sense of stability depends on things outside your influence, anxiety becomes inevitable. Certainty doesn't come from forcing outcomes. It comes from trusting your ability to respond with strength, clarity, and flexibility when outcomes change. When you release the need to control everything, you reclaim enormous mental and emotional energy. That energy was never meant to be spent on micromanaging life. It was meant to be used for creativity, focus, and growth. Control narrows your vision because you're obsessed with preventing loss. Trust expands your vision because you're focused on possibility. This shift changes how you experience pressure. Challenges stop feeling like threats and start feeling like opportunities to rise. True certainty is internal. It's not about knowing exactly what will happen. It's about knowing who you will be no matter what happens. When you trust yourself, uncertainty becomes manageable. You stop fearing the unknown because you believe in your capacity to adapt. This belief stabilizes your emotions and strengthens your resilience. You move through life grounded, not because life is predictable, but because you are prepared. Letting go of control also transforms relationships. The need to control others creates resistance, resentment, and distance. People feel constrained, judged, or manipulated. When you release control, you create space for trust and respect. You allow others to be who they are without making their behavior a referendum on your worth or security. This doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means understanding what you can influence and walking away from what you cannot. There is a profound peace that comes from acceptance, not resignation, but conscious acceptance of reality as it is. From that place, action becomes more effective because it's rooted in truth, not denial. You stop fighting the present moment and start working with it. Your decisions become cleaner, your emotions steadier, and your sense of direction stronger. Certainty grows when you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can handle whatever comes next. Each time you respond with calm instead of panic, intention instead of impulse, trust instead of control, you reinforce your inner strength. Over time, this creates an unshakable confidence. You no longer need to grip life tightly because you know you won't break if things don't go as planned. That is real power. A calm mind creates an unstoppable life because clarity is the foundation of power. When your thoughts are steady and your emotions are regulated, you move through life with precision instead of panic. Most people live in a constant state of mental noise, replaying the past, worrying about the future, reacting to every external stimulus. That noise fractures focus and drains energy. Calm is not the absence of activity. It is the absence of inner resistance. It is the state in which your mind works for you instead of against you. When your mind is calm, your perception changes. You stop exaggerating problems and start seeing solutions. Stress shrinks your world. Calm expands it. Under pressure, an unsettled mind becomes rigid and impulsive. But a calm mind stays flexible and adaptive. This flexibility is what allows you to navigate uncertainty without losing direction. You don't rush decisions. You don't freeze. You respond with intention, guided by awareness rather than fear. Calm fuels focus, and focus is the gateway to excellence. When your attention is undivided, your actions carry more weight. You do less, but you do it better. Distractions lose their grip because you're anchored in purpose. This level of focus compounds over time. Small, consistent actions performed with clarity produce extraordinary outcomes.